forgot what I'm talking about. Oh man.
Glorious. No, I won't give in till I'm victorious.
Hello everyone, this is CJ Novo 992 and today we are back with another brand new video. Today's video we unfortunately, and I mean unfortunately, have to move on from the chills and thrills of Thursday night and turn our attention to a new, different test that's upon us. Before we go any further on with today's video though, shout out to this month's channel sponsor, OneFootball. Again, the link for that is down in the description below. You literally download it on your phone, it's free, doesn't cost you any moolah, you pick Rangers and you just get Rangers news. Once again though, apologies about the green. I've offered them red, white, blue and orange and I'm just waiting to hear back. But there is a football game to discuss and as always, let's start off with the opposition. And as I said during the intro, this is a new and different test than the one we managed to overcome and conquer on Thursday night. This is Livingston Football Club, and as you already know, Livingston at the Tony Macaroni cannot be underestimated. Because not only last season, but this season already at home, they are a different kettle of fish, and on their day, they can surprise some teams. So I honestly think going into this game of football after the European game is one of the toughest games that we could have actually had on the calendar. Honestly. Now, granted, I do realise I'm sitting saying this after we've already beaten Livingston twice so far this season, home and away. Don't do the song, CJ. Don't sing the song, CJ. But all joking on that aside, I think if you're looking at both games that we have bet Livingston so far this season, they were hard-fought games. The first one at Ibrox, we were all shocked about the way that they just came at us. They actually took the lead in the game. We responded. Then, they did technically take the lead again, but it was ruled as a foul on Halliday on the halfway line. PS, thank you referee. But again, the quality was there. They hit the post twice in that match and forced Alan McGregor into a wonder save with his feet before we managed to take the lead and end up finishing the game 3-1. You even look at the most recent game, I think, was it 3 weeks ago now, where we played them in the quarter-final of the League Cup. We came away with one goal, the difference, and that was the man Glenn Kamara on the 5th minute. The rest of that game, besides being a barroom brawl, was a nippy bum time grey hair Turner. So yes, we are playing a team that we've already beat twice this season, but in both games we had to dig deep and fight for it. And that seems to be Livingston's bread and butter, especially at home. If you want to go there and win and get the 3 points, you need to be prepared to dig deep. But it has to be said, Livingston's form recently has been nothing short of awful. By far their toughest period since they returned to the top flight of Scottish football. They only have one win in the last 9 matches. But it has to be said, that one win in the last 9 was a 2-0 win versus Celtic at the Tony Macaroni. So the warning signs are there. We need to go into this game 100% at it. And the Livingston team news, very, very briefly, 2 players are expected to return to the starting 11. The first one is Sora. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it or not. It's probably not, as it's me. But again, he is returning to the lineup. You also have Scott Robinson, who put on a man-of-the-match-esque level versus Celtic. He should be available for selection tomorrow. One player that won't be available for selection, though, is actually Nicky Devlin, who has been one of their better players so far this season. He's the fullback, very, very tough, very, very physical, but has got something about him. He is definitely ruled out, as he's expected to be missing till at least after the winter break. So expect a lot of shuffling in this Livingston team. It's not going to be the one that's been starting over the last couple of games. Gary Holt, the manager, has pretty much confirmed that they're going to have to pick and choose certain things and line up a little bit differently because not everyone is 100% fit ahead of the game. And with all that being said, that is the Livingston preview wrapped up in a neat little bow. Now it's time to turn our attention to what matters most, and that is Rangers. And starting off with the press conference roundup with Stevie G himself. Again, they're starting to break it into the players and manager thing, I've started to notice now. 8 minutes for Tavernier again this week and 8 minutes from Steven Gerrard. I quite like that, rather than the players having to sit through 6 minutes of questions to Gerrard, then they get asked like one question at the end. I quite like the little difference in what they're making now. But one of the main things that I took away from this press conference, now it's not the best, but one of the main things is that Gerrard was reflecting on these types of games, like coming away from the highs of Europa League or even the lows of midweek games and being able to turn our focus and move on to the next game is something that they struggled with last season, and he was quite honest with that one. He says that was taking time to get the players right mentally. But Gerrard was very quick to give his staff and players a hell of a lot of credit, because so far this season they've managed with the fixture congestion very, very well, and there's been no hangover so far. And instead of seeing tomorrow as a potential what if or anything like that, he sees it as another opportunity and chance to show that they have learned for the mistakes of last season. And I quite like that he's always open and honest, and I just love the fact that he gives a lot of credit to not only his players but his staff as well. So that was like a nice little taster. That was a wee appetizer to warm you up for the press conference. But this right here is the main course, because by far the biggest takeaway from this week's press conference is Gerrard talking about his settled back four. Now, all the hashtag free Katic lovers are absolutely going to hate this part of today's video, but don't take it on me, alright? Didn't shoot the messenger. I am just telling you what the gaffer has been saying, and he said a lot about Philippe Hollander and the move to the Glasgow Rangers. He was talking about the fact that they didn't rush him, they didn't throw him into the deep end to show that he's worth the price tag. Because of the form of Katic and Connor Goldson, that gave Hollander the perfect opportunity to learn about the league and be slowly introduced to the starting 11. And now we're seeing the benefits of that. We're seeing the benefits of him not being flung into the deep end, the fact that he's been able to take time out, learn about it, learn about the players he's going to be coming up against, and you're seeing the performances with him and Connor Goldson once again establishing themselves as the two centre halves. The only saddest thing about this entire conversation that Gerrard had is I felt really bad about Katic because how well Katic was playing, it gave Hollander longer to learn about the league and take his job. My heart for him. So it looks like we finally have the answer to the old centre back question me and thee have discussed at great length on this channel. Goldson and Hollander as your two main centre backs at the football club. How do you feel about that, and do you agree with that decision? P.S. by the way, now that we've discussed all that, I know for a fact that Gerrard could just be controlling it and messing with the media, because you know he likes to do that. He could be just letting that information out there so Gary Holt thinks Hollander and Goldson's playing tomorrow, and he could just flip it on his head and put Nicolo Katic in. You just never know with Gerrard, but again, I thought it was worth mentioning. But before we wrap up the press conference roundup, we do have one last thing to let you know, and it's a question I was getting a lot of comments about and a lot of Instagram messages asking about the St Mirren goalkeeper, and you might have noticed I never made a video on it because there was absolutely nothing in it at all, not even a slither of anything, and Gerrard pretty much confirmed that again, because when asked about the St Mirren goalkeeper, he just shook his head and says that is just his agent telling him what he wants to hear pretty much. As far as he's aware, there's no interest from the club. And with that, we have reached the end of the press conference roundup. There was the standard two questions about Alfredo Morelos that I didn't even need to bore you with. You can already hear the questions in your mind. As I say, that was the exact same ones. And as always, there's a Liverpool question, which has absolutely no place in a preview for a Scottish League game, but that was there. I'm glad they used up a couple of minutes for that one. But we move away from that and we turn our attention to some Rangers team news. And I really love being able to sit here and talk about this now, because I hated doing it last year because there was 5 or 6 injuries every week and it always just made me sad inside. But I'm sitting here with a massive smile on my face because once again Gerrard confirmed there's a clean bill of health from the Glasgow Rangers, apart from the one we already know, which is Jordan frickin' Jones. And speaking about Jordan Jones, by the way, I'm getting excited now because he's almost back, and I'm starting to imagine what he's going to be like running at defenders, committing people, creating gaps, and then you have Ryan Kent doing the exact same on the other side. Both brave on the ball, both will attack the fullbacks. I can't wait. But unfortunately, just to make it very, very clear, he will not be a part of the game tomorrow. But that's it, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. There was no talk about rotation the strikers, but he did kind of lean towards the fact that there may be a couple of players rested out, so you may just see Jermaine Defoe. So hopefully that helps you with your predictions down there in the comment section below, because we've reached that part. So let me know what you're thinking about the game tomorrow. While you guys are doing that, I will give you mine very, very briefly. I'm thinking a very physical counter again, as always. Big Dykes will be an interesting test to see the two new established centre halves, how they deal with that challenge. But I think it's going to be another nail biter, ladies and gentlemen. But I'm going to go with Rangers 2, Livingston nil. My goal scorers are going to be Jermaine Defoe and Big Connor Goldson. And now that me and thee have had their say, let's sit back and relax and hear from the people on Twitter. There's been 645 votes already. Thank you so much, by the way, because like I forgot what video I was doing today, I also forgot to put the poll up until 20 minutes ago. So thank you so much for all that support. 4% votes for Livingston, 4% votes for the draw, but 92% of the people votes for a Rangers away win. So let's see what they've had to say. Ian McDougall writes in, gonna be a tough one as it always is in Livy. 2-1 to the famous Jack and Morelos. Philip Ewan McGregor writes in 2-0 Rangers. As always, Philip, me and you were up here, son. Arfield and Kent scoring for Philip. Pistol 7892 writes in, tough game on the plastic pitch, but there will be no Euro hangover. 2-0 to the famous, a dirty double for Defoe. Deacon Neil writes in, be a tough going 2-0 win for Rangers with an Alfie double. Andrew Tate writes in, it's got to be us, surely. I agree, mate, but didn't call me Shirley. That joke doesn't work because I also read out the shoot. Right, came up, we'll move on, right? Jokes fail, just like me. Deaky writes in 2-1 to Rangers, Morelos and Defoe. Mark Kelly writes in 3-0 Rangers, Morelos, Kent and Davis. And the last one we'll read out in tonight's video comes from David White, and he writes in, going to be a big adjustment in a lot of ways from Thursday, especially on that pitch. It'll be tough. I don't expect a big win. The 3 points is all that matters. I'll take an ugly 1 or 2-0 win. So there it is, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. You've heard from the people. You've heard from myself. If you haven't done so already, you know what to do. Bye. Now, before we wrap up though, I need to give a massive thank you for watching today's video. I have been Sieging Over 92. I'll see you in the next one, and bye.